This time on Flipping Bangers.
A legendary British sports car.
Don't break it. We haven't bought it. You know that, don't you?
With some nice ingredients.
I've got a thing about rubber bumper cars.
And a couple that aren't so good.
So what's going on with this Sunroof? We're going to have to talk about that, clearly.
We face hard choices.
That is absolutely awful. It'll take everything we've got
to turn this one around.
After all this work. What a waste of time and money.
I'm Gus Gregory.
And I'm Will Trickett.
Together, we're risking everything to follow a dream.
It's something I've wanted to do for a long, long time.
We've packed in our day jobs
and invested our own hard-earned cash
as we try to make a living in the cutthroat world of second-hand cars.
It's all in the chase. You've got to buy well, you've got to sell well.
Why would anybody buy this car?
We've got a goal.
We want to double our money. If we put 500 quid in, we need to see £1,000 back. We're targeting the very bottom of the market.
We buy cars that nobody else wants.
Can we keep our business afloat, Flipping Bangers?
It needs so much work doing to it.
1 year ago, we turned our backs on our regular jobs, rented this garage and attempted to carve out a new living by buying and selling cheap cars, and made enough money flipping bangers just to return.
People dream of giving everything up, but we're doing it for real. And it's scary.
We've raided our piggy banks again, and this time we have enough to spend £500 to £1,000 on each car. If we want to cover our costs and pay ourselves wages on top, we have no choice but to double our return on every pound we put in. Our workshop time must be fixed too, and runs to just 5 days per car. We've swapped a salary and a wage, possibly for nothing.
Our workshop calls for new metal, and we've got to decide how to fill it.
Do you know what we have been ignoring? And it's a bit like an elephant in the room, to be fair. 60s MGs.
Oh, I do like a good MG. Yeah. What type, though?
Well, more precise, they'll probably be 70s stroke 80s by the time we can afford them.
Yeah, for the sort of thing that we get. It would probably be a box of bits anyway. I know what you're aiming towards. MGB.
Yeah, MGB, an MGB GT.
The GT makes sense. The hardtop version is at least £1,000 less than the ragtop, but has all the same mechanicals and is still collectible.
I mean, you're up for the idea of it.
Yeah, I am up for the idea of it.
Well, let's see if we can find something.
We set a limit of £1,000 and check auctions for cars that don't have MOTs. Most people wouldn't want a non-runner, so we've limited the competition. We find a yellow, forgotten project car with 2 days left on an auction, and the bidding is only up to £560.
What do you reckon our chances are on this car?
What, getting wedged? Oh,
yeah.
I think the car's interesting. You know, Bob's had this car for 12 years.
12 years. What's he been doing with it? Driving it around, or?
No, he's been, well, yeah. I don't know, I didn't actually get that out of him. It's been garaged for a long time, but he's had it for 12 years, and he bought it as a project, and he's done it all himself. Everything he's done himself, which could be great, could be terrible.
Yeah. As with all old MGs, we both know rust is a serious risk. We might get there and find that it looks really shiny and the interior's all great, but there's just nothing left underneath.
Our real trouble is that we're not going to be able to see that, are we? Because we're not going to be able to get it off the ground.
Fingers crossed then, fingers crossed.
We're the first people to visit. Will the early birds catch the worm?
Hello.
Bob, is it?
Yeah, hi. Nice to see you.
This is amazing. What a beautiful part of the world.
Welcome to Somerset.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Morning, Bob.
Morning.
Will.
Yeah, hi, yes. Oh, you come to see the MGB?
Yeah.
It's round the back this way.
Fabulous. It's very yellow, Bob, isn't it?
That's not everybody's cup of tea, is it, that colour? How much of it is of the original paint, though?
Well, some of it.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't look too bad for it, mate.
And there's more paint in the back.
Well, that's
Excellent.
handy.
Yeah, it is handy. It looks pretty straight, doesn't it?
It's funny, you know, I've got a thing about the rubber bumper cars. I actually really like them. I like the MG, that sort of original Pininfarina shape. I really like. But looking at this rubber bumper now, it looks great, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Black and yellow, I suppose, goes well together.
Well, it looks dangerous, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, don't mess. Right, let's go and have a proper look
Yeah,
then.
can we have a poke
Right.
around?
Sure.
Rust first. The panel gaps seem to line up, and there doesn't seem to be too much filler. But despite not being road legal, the outer sills appear okay. There's some light surface rust, but from what I can see without a ramp, this car seems reasonably tidy underneath.
So what's going on with this sunroof then, Bob? We're going to have to talk about that, clearly.
Well, it's an aftermarket one that's been fitted.
Yeah.
The pop-up glass sunroof is not only ugly, but they are known for leaking.
MG interiors can be tatty, but this one has been retrimmed. Interior looks quite nice, Gus.
That's great. Did you do that yourself?
No, it's professionally done.
Excellent. That looks really good. So that's the carpets.
Yes, new set.
This is the
Paint.
paint. And we can hand paint the car, which would be nice. I'd like the idea of doing that.
Tractor style.
And what's that, Bob? That's the...
Discs, new set of drilled discs for the front.
Excellent. That'll be handy. What's the floor? Oh, and a new row style. That's really nice. And the boot looks the floor looks in good nick.
Yeah, I've painted all of that, and the fuel pump service that got it working. It's a problem with these.
Yes, yeah, they're always a bit temperamental, aren't they?
Bangers Gus.
You know what? I really like these hinges. They're very satisfying, aren't they? The way they lock into place and then unlock. It's a clever bit of design, isn't it? It's not MOT'd, is it? So we can't really drive it anywhere.
No, but you could drive it on the grass here.
You mean we can drive your car around your field?
Yes.
The reason I'm keen for Will not to drive is that he's really a very poor driver and suffers from farmer's foot. But I let him, and right away, he turns the car into a sick-making roller coaster.
Can you tell at all what it feels like to drive?
No, it's not like your average drive in the countryside, this one.
Well, we are actually driving in the countryside. What does the engine feel like?
It feels torquey. It's not making any nasty noises, which is kind of amazing.
Not yet. Don't break it. We haven't bought it. You know that, don't you?
Yeah, but he said I could drive it, Gus.
Yeah.
Will does his best to test the structural integrity of the MG. If there's a loud cracking sound, it means the test has failed.
You can't break it, though. I think so. So hang on. Bob, this is up at the moment for £560.
Yes.
Yeah?
It's just been reduced to 460 because
You've been driving it.
I'm driving it.
But we don't know what the rust situation is underneath.
But with what we know right now, do we buy it?
If we can get him to take it off the auction site, if we can give him a figure so that he takes it off the auction site and we can take it home today.
Engine feels good. Gearbox sounds all right.
Yeah.
Rear axle isn't making any horrendous noises.
How can you tell? Bouncing it around so much.
Well,
just
you
drive it
can't-
slowly.
Okay.
Is it possible?
No.
It feels we have a plan. If we secure the MG for £50 more than the auction is sitting at now, it will be a bargain for us and hopefully it'll work for Bob.
Watch and learn. Bob, £600 and we'll take the car away.
No. Sorry. It's on an auction site, 2 days to go. I'll wait and see what happens.
Okay. Well, is there a price that we could pay you now that would make you take it off the auction site?
Not really. I've done a lot. I'm not sure what it's worth. I'd like to wait and see the outcome. If you're interested, bid on it, and I wish you good luck.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough, isn't it?
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Nice one,
nice
Bob.
to meet you. Yeah.
Thanks for letting us drag it around your field.
I'm sorry about his driving.
Being a
He's
blast.
terrible.
It feels strange returning home empty-handed.
That wasn't our finest negotiation, was it?
No, that didn't come off the way we had hoped it would go at all, did it?
I don't blame him.
Well, I certainly wouldn't have sold it at that price, considering the situation.
No, he's going to get more for it. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I think if you look at how much those cars are worth, a really good one, which that's never going to be, is it? Unless you spend a shed load of money on it. A really good one's £5,000. A half decent one, 3, a bad one, 2.
Yeah. If we imagine that we're going to get one of the lower prices, 2.5 grand.
Say we get 2.5, at worst we get 2.
Yeah. So we've got to come in at about £1 grand. Always a trickle over just to clinch it on the extra penny, I reckon. With a heavy heart, we go online and offer around twice what we originally wanted to pay, 1,100 quid. Right, well, let's hope that does it. We can't bear to watch the countdown, but in fact, we've won the car. Excellent. Yes, 1,059 quid. Now we can collect our yellow prize.
But the big question now is how much work it's going to take for us to win the cash back and put the money on top.
Our business is to flip bangers, aka cars that most people would happily consign to the scrap heap. We've grabbed this MOT-less MGB GT for a reasonable £1,059 and are content with its mostly straight body and good mechanicals and interior.
But that's based on what we can see, and we hope we don't discover anything to change that view. But at this moment, we're good, hopefully.
I've got a bit of a theory about this car. We've got a really good car for very little money, and that's very us, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So my theory is, here it comes,
Okay.
is that we do up the bits that are going to scare people, like this,
Yes,
crunchy bits. So it's still an honest car. It's got a good engine, it's got a good interior, and it's got a decent drivetrain. So minimum effort, straight out the door.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. Gus's minimum effort plan might just work. Sort out the surface rust, don't touch anything else. We'll save money and time. Our usual strategy is to aim high, and this time we're aiming squarely for average. There's a load of unknowns as well. You know, these things have got a horrible habit of just rusting away, and we don't know about any of that yet.
No, that's true. It seems to me we've got choices, and when we know we've got choices, we've just got to make the right choice, haven't we?
Before the car goes, we need to set up an online auction to run immediately, so we can sell the MG as soon as it's complete. Gus is our in-house photographer, but I'm also a dab hand with the modern telephonic device. Then I need to write the auction ad, and I decide how much the car might be worth when it's finished. Describing the MG's paintwork as good at this moment could be classed as a bit of a lie, as is the brand new MOT. But we've got 5 days to make it true. MGBs are popular cars. £2,000 will get you a bad one. £5,000 will get you a really good one. An average one tends to be around about 3,000 quid. Now, wouldn't it be nice to think that ours was slightly better than average? So I'm going to put it in for 3,750 quid with a reserve price of, 3,000 quid and a starting price of £499.
And now for a key moment. Our first proper examination underneath a car that's known for rust. We bought this MG as Will believes there's a little cleaning up to do, but it's basically straight. Time to find out if he's right.
Oh! You know those choices I was talking about?
That is absolutely awful.
Do you think we might have had a little bit too much fun when we were test driving it? Because if I'd have seen this then, I would not have bought this car.
I'm amazed this car stayed together. Do you know what? This is going to cost us all of our time. All that time that we should be spending on the top sides, sorting out the cosmetic stuff, is now going to have to be spent down here, sorting out all the structural stuff.
All that time cutting, welding, grinding, with potentially nothing done to the top of the car. So anyone who comes to see the car, it's just going to be the same. We might not get any more money after all this work. What a waste of time. What a waste of time and money. Bloody hell.
Before we tackle the rust, we energise ourselves with a cuppa. And then into battle.
So the car isn't quite as good as we wanted, but we've seen rusty cars before, and the way to tackle them is called hard graft, the most valuable resource we have. But at least we have it.
Before we have a complete picture of what we need to do, we need to grind away the rust and reveal the edges of the good metal, so we can estimate the time it'll take to make good. Will often takes the lead with welding, but this time it's 4 hands on deck. A couple of hours later, we get an idea of what we're dealing with.
We knew there was some rust in this car, but then we started work on it and our worst nightmares have come true. This car's completely rotted out. The main structural parts, as in these inner sill parts and these parts here, have just completely rusted away, and they've just been covered with a patchwork of rot and detritus. This sort of thing can literally kill the project for us. We stand a chance at the moment of not making any money at all. But it has still got to be done. I'm left with trying to compress 10 days' work into fewer long days, probably stretching into the night. I've got some sheet steel in the workshop, and I put together some new chassis legs to support the floor pan. I need to fabricate multiple sections for each part of the rot. Meanwhile, Gus prepares each area, so bit by bit we'll work around the car together. I've got to firm up the sills as well, seam welding the solid plate against the metal Gus has exposed. At the end of the first day in the workshop, we're tired and a bit dispirited, but our light makeover plan has turned to dust. Or should I say, sparks. Ow! Ugh. Well, I was going to say it's coming on quite well so far. Which it is, I suppose, but it's a tiny, tiny part of a huge job, and I haven't got any time to spare, so.
Will?
Yeah.
Will!
Yeah.
Can we knock it on the head?
What?
Should we knock it on the head? You're never going to get that finished tonight, are you?
I'm not going to get it finished today, no, but I'm getting on quite well. I wouldn't mind getting to the end of this little bit.
All right.
So I'm going to crack on. I'll see you in the morning.
Yeah, all right, I'm clattering off. I'll see you in the morning.
All right, see you bright and sparky. A professional welder is at least 50 quid an hour. So if I was doing this for someone else, I'd be quids in. But this time, my labour is a gift to the MGB, and I hope it's grateful.
Day 2. We've got a business flipping bangers, and we have a struggle on our hands. Our current project is a bit more of a banger than we'd like. After almost a day and night of welding, Will's prefab panels are patching up the jigsaw of rot under the GT. It could be that Will is completely tied up for large chunks of our 5-day workshop allowance, which is now technically 4, so I'm turning my attention to the end game for our MG.
I'm worried about our MGB GT. When our car goes into the market at £3,000, it's going to be in a sea of 100 other MGBs. And I need to know, what's going to make ours stand out.
I'm suddenly wondering whether my surface makeover strategy was right after all, and I'm visiting local MG dealer Alex for some pearls of wisdom.
This is a BGT, isn't it? So
It is, yeah.
I'd say this is the closest, although this is a million miles away from our car because our car's got rubber bumpers, our wheels are terrible, our paintwork is atrocious, and we've got a sunroof.
What sort of sunroof is it?
Well, it looks like it's come out either of a ship or a Land Rover.
Okay, so it'd be a glass sunroof then.
Yeah, it's glass, yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah, that can kill the car.
Really?
Yeah, really difficult to sell with a glass sunroof.
So what do you suggest then? What would you do?
Probably look at a folding vinyl sunroof.
Like a Webasto?
Like a Webasto, that would solve the problem.
Okay.
They are actually very desirable, so
Are they?
that would add value.
What is it that people look for when they're looking for a B?
First thing generally is colour.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ours is yellow.
Okay. Yellow is very popular at the moment.
Is it
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, there's a generation that grew up with the British Leyland colours of the 70s. So yellow, orange, bright blue, really sought after. You've got to remember that it takes about 5 seconds to sell a car like that.
Does it?
Yeah, 5 seconds. So if it's the right colour, you will see in the buyer's face whether they're going to buy or not.
It seems like our MG might be a bit more saleable than we thought. Maybe doing less on it will be a wasted business opportunity.
And the other thing is you need to make sure the wheels are presentable. A lot of owners of MGBs just paint them silver and they look terrible.
Yeah.
So it's worth taking some time and trouble to get the wheels looking presentable.
These have been done,
Yeah,
haven't
these
they?
ones have been refurbished. And again, it's attention to detail.
We sort out our paintwork.
Yeah.
We do our wheels. We
Yeah.
put our Webasto in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
hopefully
Yeah.
we should. We're looking for around 3 grand.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
great.
think you'll do that.
I leave Alex with a new list of jobs and return to the workshop, where poor old Will hasn't even taken off his welding mask. But at least the underside looks better. I know we've got to improve the sunroof and properly refurb the wheels, and luckily I can do that outside.
I'm a sucker for a steel wheel, and I love road styles. But there's something about painting them badly that does me in. You can see the lines of the brush in this, and it's just not right. They would have been sprayed. They probably would have been enamelled, but I think they were just sprayed. There's a clear line around here, which you're not supposed to go over. It's basic painting within the lines. So I'm using a paint stripper to strip the paint off. These were on the back drums as well. I mean, I don't know what anyone else's opinion is, but I can't stand them, so the red's coming off of these as well.
Alex told me that the wheels are the first thing that people look at, so I'm taking no chances, getting the base surface as flat and clean as I can. And doing simple jobs properly doesn't always take a short time. I commit the afternoon to preparing them, while I hear the crackle of Will's welder carrying on far later than is good for morale. While Will beds in for a late one, I'm washing off the paint stripper and see what's underneath. And it seems okay. In slow steps, we're blowing off the rot that is bringing the MG down. But another day ends with us exhausted. Day 3. We've got an MGB to fix and sell, which has plunged us into a 2-man battle. Will is going for the world welding record, and I'm trying to work out what the finishing touches will be while the car is far from finished. I think they call it a do-or-die strategy, and if they don't, they should. It's time to reveal my gift. A new sunroof kit is a nasty £1,000. A used one, £500 if you're lucky. But for £200, a nice man in Scotland was willing to let his go, including overnight shipping.
So I took a bit of time out to talk to an expert. He's been selling MGBs for decades, actually decades and decades. And he said the things that I thought were negatives for the car were positives. He said this car has got a lot of positives going for it.
Okay.
But the major negative is glass sunroof. He said nobody will buy a GT with a glass sunroof.
Really?
That's what he said.
Okay, I understand it, because I'm not really a fan of glass sunroofs at all, but so what's your suggestion then?
Well, this is the cunning part. A Webasto period pullback sunroof.
The nice canvas ones that go all the way back. That's slightly worrying. I mean, to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of the glass sunroof. I think they've had their time. And this one's got problems.
But we'll cover all this crispiness up, won't we? Because ours will be bigger than this.
Well, that's my other concern, because it's making a bigger hole in our car. It's kind of the biggest hole you can cut into the roof of an MGB.
We are going to need a bigger hole.
Yeah.
But how much fun is it going to be cutting a big hole in the top of this car?
What could possibly go wrong? We raise cars from the dead and make some money into the bargain. But this MGB GT wants to finish us off. Possibly because our smart plan is to cut a big hole in its roof and retrofit a retro sunroof. Don't try this at home, kids.
There we go. One fully functioning period Webasto hood with MGB roof attached.
That's good to see, because hopefully that's the right size hole.
Well, that's what I thought.
And that'll take away some of the worry.
Yeah.
But we've still got to get it in the right place.
Yeah, that is true.
You're going to take this to bits?
I thought I would, yeah.
First, I drill out the bolts that hold it to the old roof, then prise off the hood frame. You need a gentle touch.
Yeah, it's really flimsy.
I'm going to get rid of the old sunroof. 80s kits such as analog radios can be sold online, but only the skip would be happy with this.
We've got to be incredibly careful with these because period Webasto hoods are really difficult to come by. They all come with similar problems. They've been on a car for a very long time, so you've got to be very careful taking them apart. Because if you break them, then they're broken.
Gently and successfully, I separate the fabric from the frame, which I can remove from the old roof. Will carries on stripping out the old pop-up, taking care not to nick or distort the aperture, as it'll make the new frame harder to fit.
The old pop-up was screwed into the roof and they were all rusty. Then I just prise off the frame and we're good to move on. This really is crunch time. We've got the underside in good health, and make a mistake on the top bit and the profit on the MGB goes south instantly. The biggest error here is to make the new cuts either off-centre or the wrong size. Get that wrong and there's nothing we can do about it. In order to fit our new roof, I need to decide the position of it. Now what I'd like to do is move it away from the old cut line, forwards of it, so I lose this rust and it gets cut off. That's great. Now, the other thing is to mark the centre line of the car and also mark the centre line onto the template, which is the old bit of roof that's come off the bit that Gus is dismantling at the moment. And when I lay the template onto the roof of this car and make sure it's on the centre lines, that will ensure that our roof aperture is lined up perfectly. So this is it really, back to the simple stuff. Mark out the template from the old sunroof.
There we are. Now we know.
Very good. Reinforce it for clarity, and then it's on to the fun bit. I drill into the corners to make a hole large enough to get the jigsaw blade in. I cut back into the corners, keeping the blade perfectly perpendicular to the body to make a clean edge. And before too long, surgery is complete. And that, my friends, is a nice big hole, which should be the perfect size for the old frame or the new frame.
This is a long job. The large steps don't take as long as the smaller ones, such as fixing, which needs complete precision, or this roof will always leak. We're fixing the frame back into the car with rivets, not bolts. They're stronger and reliable. While Will attempts to trim the headlining, I seal the frame into place and then use a rivet gun to complete the fix, with bolts on the corner. The fabric sits inside the frame, so we'll wedge it in before sealing down the other side of the frame.
Right, go on then. Get that one.
With a job like this, you've always got to be patient.
That one. In there. Slide.
Oh,
Slide back.
it's a minute moment of celebration.
That's in place. Now we secure the back of the fabric and...
It's finished.
It is. Shall we?
Shall we?
Right.
Get your grubby fingers off!
Okay.
Oh, look at that!
Awesome.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
Awesome. We have good days and bad days, but this one has been nothing but productive.
Day 4. We buy, fix and sell on Bangers as a business, and this MGB GT project was sent from high to testers. Will's done a smashing job welding the rubbishy underside. I've been sly and cunning by getting us a new sunroof on the cheap, and the project only owes us about 1,200 quid. But we've got 2 days left to nail the project.
I laid it out to Gus. If he didn't let me have a break from welding the MGB, then I was going to have a tantrum. So begrudgingly, he's allowed me out to buy some spares. There are still 8,000 MGB GTs road registered at the moment, which is amazing for an old classic car. I mean, of course, that number's dropping off by a couple of hundred a year because they're getting taken to bits and broken for spares. All that means is the parts support for the MG is pretty good, And the Owners Club has thousands of products on their shelves. The basic mechanicals for the MG are absolutely fine, but it'll need a complete service. I selected decent grade oil, air filter, pack of bolts, and bump stops for the rear springs. Salesman Chris talks me into getting a wheel painting kit for Gus and other newly launched tech.
Plus the LED lighting conversion, suitable for UK roads.
Okay.
LEDs are 3 times more powerful than standard halogen lights. They will improve your brightness, but reduce the power consumption on the car, make you feel safer at driving at night time.
Oh, that looks pretty whiz-bang.
Really high quality chipsets, last forever.
Wow, look at that.
And they've been designed to work with the original headlamp bowls.
That is super space age, isn't it?
It is space age.
The only disadvantage to making the MG a bit more tricksy is a trade price bill of 178 quid, when Gus told me to spend a couple of quid. While I've been busy, Gus has discovered that the rear springs need urgent replacements.
So when I took the wheels off, you could see that the leaf springs were really baggy. The final straw might possibly have been ragging it around the field, but in actual fact, they'd had it anyway. And we've got new ones here, which came with the car, which I'm now putting on.
They bolt on or off, but whether you can get the bolts on or off is another matter. The more a leaf spring wears, the more travel in the ride and the baggier the handling.
Well, the U-bolts are out, and it's a good job we've got new top caps because it's absolutely rusted to pieces. Right, so that's old spring off. You can see all the gaps in here, and this is our new spring here. Look, all nice and tight. I mean, the rubber's perished on the top of that. It's all new and shiny on there as well. But you can see the difference between the two. The old one's got a lot of sag in it, hasn't it? So it should sharpen the suspension up. So I'm going to crack on and get this on.
That's it. And because these were provided with the car, we've saved around £100. And I can get on with my next round of wheel improvements now that Will has bought me a refurb kit. The paint is stripped, but still needs help getting back to the metal. I degrease the surface and they'll be ready to paint. So I mask, prime, and spray. And that's a cue for Will to get busy as well.
I've decided to take a bit of a break from the welding because I've had enough of it for the time being. And I want to concentrate some of my efforts on the paintwork because it's in a desperate state. It really needs some attention, but we don't have tons of time to spend on it. So I'm going to concentrate my efforts on the bits that need it the most. So that means this bit here because it's covered in runs, this bit here because it's full of filler, this rear arch because it looks really scuzzy, there's bits missing out the door here, here and here, oh, and down here as well. This paint along here is horribly cracked, and there's a rusty bit up here. First step, sand it all back. Using masking tape, I cover the chrome that's in good nick, so I won't damage it when I start grinding. Given the state of some of the rust and the fact that the car uses solid paint, I'm going to respray the whole of the side of the car using the rattle cans. It's cheap, it's fast and pretty effective.
While the paint on the car and wheels is drying, I stick on Will's LED lights. I'll have to update our online ad to account for this little benefit if they work. After so much heavy lifting, this is a nicely light task. The bulb snaps in and the transformer sits behind the reflector, so you don't need a wiring genius to do the swap.
The paint job and colour is critical on this car. We already know it might win us an instant sale. Am I skimping by using rattle cans? Not really. The old solid paint finishers are suited to it, and 3 coats evenly spread. It'll look great. The best bit about all of this is a paint shop would have charged 500 quid a side, yet my materials will have cost just 50.
By the end of the day, our target is to have a newly painted body shell, at least one side, and maybe wheels that will catch a buyer's eye, as promised.
Oh, what do you reckon then, Gus?
I think you've done a really nice job of it. The only problem I foresee is the fact that it's, oh, hang on, the wrong colour.
That's actually the right colour. It's the bonnet that's the wrong colour.
Regardless of which is right and which is wrong, we're never going to be able to sell a car like that, are we?
No, we're not, no. But look on the bright side, Gus.
I am.
We can sand down the rest.
We're going to have to paint the whole thing, aren't we?
So at the end of our 4th day, with only one left to go, we've got a half-painted car and some bad news.
I'm just checking on the online auction on our MGB, and there's no watchers and there's no bidders, which isn't surprising because the photographs we took of the MG we took before we did the work. So basically, they would be bidding on the car that we bought, and why would anybody do that? The answer, clearly, to make this MG stand out in the marketplace, which it's not doing at the moment, is to take this auction down, re-photograph it, and then repost it.
Can this car honestly get any harder?
Day 5. We've got a business that's all about flipping. Well, you can probably guess what. We've started with 5 days to turn a rusty MGB from a project to a plaything. We've got 1 day left with half a car still to paint.
Will has done an amazing job on the Welding and it's looking fantastic, but he can't rest. He masks up the body that I've prepped, and working together, we can get a week's paint job done in a day.
We've sort of had the decision made for us. We've got to respray the rest of the car. So we've decided to divide and conquer. I've put the garage door down and I'm doing this outside so as I don't make too much dust and spoil what Will's already done.
I just need to mask up the right-hand side before I start spraying.
So this is the moment of truth. This is the moment when I really regret saying anything bad about anyone who has ever revamped a road style Will. So I'm going to take the masking tape off.
Oh, but hang on. Oh, there's a little bit of bleed on there. That's not good. Yeah, a little bit. Not too much. Well, it's not too bad. And I tell you what, in actual fact, I might be able to get that off with a bit of silver paint on a big thick brush. Okay, so there's a little bit of bleed on there, but I think I'm going to get away with that because I'm going to get rid of those with a bit of silver paint. And actually, when I take the whole lot off, it's not going to look too bad.
We've had to double our budget on paint cans, now standing at 100 quid. But in the afternoon of our last day, the MGB is looking like a new car, but not a finished one.
So let me get this right. That was 1, 2, or maybe 3 little bits of touch-up, was it?
Yeah, yeah, it was supposed to be, but it's this is a good example of what we might call project creep.
It's the end of our workshop time. Something tells me we might have an early morning in store to finish up. After a somewhat rushed start, starting horribly early, we finish up and get a chance to clap eyes on the finished MG. Every car is a journey, but this one was longer than it might have been. The car cost £1,059. We've welded up the underside, added a sunroof, painted the entire body, refurbished the wheels, fixed the springs and converted the lights and serviced it. So we're in for just £1,654. Not bad at all.
Another bonus, the MG also sailed through its MOT and is now fully road legal.
So if you'd have talked to a man who sold MGs for decades, like I have, he would say to you, get rid of the rust, and we've done that. We've done it on the top, we've done it on the bottom. He'd say, refurbish the wheels, and we have, and they look smart. He'd say, get rid of the porthole out of the roof and put a Webasto in, and we've done that. We've done all the things that we were told to do with this car.
We almost did that exactly, but we started off with a car that wouldn't take very much to bring it up to a good level. Apart from when we started on the welding, we realised that we'd bitten off more than we could chew. The paintwork, which was just going to be 3 little patches.
It was a patchwork of horrors though, wasn't it?
It was a horrible patchwork. I think by default, we have actually managed to achieve your friend's advice.
I think so, but it's taken us to the limit in everything, hasn't it? It's taken us to the limit of our finances. It's taken us to the limit of our time.
And patience.
And patience, yeah. But I think we've moved it to maybe even 3 rungs up the ladder, haven't we?
It's a good car now. Just ought to take it for a drive.
Yeah, exactly that.
It's my turn. There's no way Will gets to spoil things again.
So if you were born in the 60s and brought up through the 70s and 80s, these cars were woven into our motoring heritage as sports cars. These were sold to us as sports cars, but in actual fact, they weren't actually sports cars at all, were they?
No, they weren't, but they did have a really good engine. 1800cc, twin carb, tons of torque. Never the fastest engine, but they were okay.
You've got to look at the pluses and minuses of this car, haven't you? And take into consideration you're stepping into an 80s version of a 60s car. It's never going to be anything but that, is it? The things we've done to it, however, have made a lot of difference. Tightening up the rear suspension, putting the springs on, putting those lights in. It drives as a really nice package now.
It would be nice to think we get good money for it. I've had a look at the prices. 3,000 quid is about right for an average one. Well, with all of the work that we've done to this and its shiny new yellow paint job, wouldn't it be nice to think we might be able to get more than 3,000 quid?
Definitely. It's still got MG magic, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We've been so absorbed in the work on the car, we forgot to update Will's unimaginative photos from our listing. No surprise that serious inquiries have failed to come through. But a few hours before the end of the auction, one person asked to view. It's actually Helen's husband who's always wanted to own an MG.
Hello, Helen.
Oh, hi.
What do you reckon to this then?
Oh, it's lovely. I really love the colour of it. It's brilliant.
It's a gorgeous colour, isn't it? And doesn't it present well like that?
It's wonderful. But I've heard that there can be issues with MGs, rust and things like that.
Yeah, this is true. They do all suffer from rust in similar sort of areas, sills and stuff like that. But I've spent days underneath it, welding it all up, making it as good as new. This car's got years of life left in it now.
So if you take the car as a sort of overall, the engine's very good, the drive chain's very good, changes gear very nicely. The suspension is very good now. Overall, for the money, it's a very, very good MGB.
And what sort of money do you want?
Ideally, 3,800.
I couldn't go that high, but I do want it. I mean, the aim is to give it as a gift to my husband. He's a GP. The number plate's amazing. It's cough. He's always wanted one. Could you do 3,400?
Well, in actual fact, if you could get to 3,500, that's our reserve price. So we could let it go for 3,500. And I can take it off the internet site.
Well, it's a great gift, so yeah, I guess 3,500 is good.
That's brilliant.
Oh.
Absolutely brilliant. Here, allow me to...
At £3,500, miraculously, we've not only doubled our money, we've added on £221 for the Christmas party. Things are definitely looking up.